Of course, the biggest story in all of college football out of the transfer portal is what's going on in Boulder, Colorado. Garrett, I know you had an awesome video about this. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see Garrett's full video dedicated to this. But guys, Coach Prime all of a sudden is just absolutely bleeding players. We highlighted the spring game last weekend on the episode and talked about how cool it was, that Colorado filled the stands. We talked about how awesome it was that Prime seems like he has it moving in the right direction, but all of a sudden, as soon as that spring game was over, it seemed like the floodgates just opened. I have, by my count, according to 247, we were up to 53 players entering the transfer portal going out of Colorado since the end of the regular season last year. And Deion Sanders seems fine with it. His message to the media when asked about it has kind of been that, these guys aren't part of the future plan and they're going to be fine. I think his most quoted moment was just saying, wait till you see who we got coming in. And I love that mentality. I love that he's staying positive about this, but it's hard to find the positives when 53 are leaving. That's a whole NFL roster that have left the program since November. What do you guys stand on that?
I mean, I talked about it in my video a little bit. It was especially with just what happened from the spring game. 28 at the time that I recorded that video had left post spring game. It kind of goes to show that maybe things aren't as good behind the scenes as we think that they are. I think that there's a lot of hot take people right now that are going to want to go out there and say, oh, this is the end of the Deion era, or who cares, because, it's not all good players. None of them are contributors, but several of those players were key contributors to their team, including two of their leading receivers and their leading running back from last year. Now, you might argue and say those guys weren't good. They won one game. And I'll give you that, right? That makes some sense. But at the same time, when you bring in all these new players, you need to establish a culture quickly. And before the spring game, I would have said, yeah, Deion's doing a good job establishing his culture. It seems like people are excited. It seems like things are going to go the way that he wants them to go. But now post-spring, those guys have had a whole spring practice, whole spring ball to go through and see what he's got going on in the locker room. And a bunch of these guys want out. That's a red flag for me. And I'm not going to say that the era's over. I mean, again, it's Colorado. It's, if you win 2 games next year, you've doubled your win total year to year. So that's kind of a success already. But I just think that we need to look at this from more of a culture building perspective, because the majority of what he offers to Colorado is hype. A lot of what he offers is the fact that you can come in here and you can play for Colorado and you can be a part of primetime and you can be a part of this whole thing. And if he starts to sour his image a little bit, if things go a little wonky with the way people perceive him and his program, that's kind of what he has to offer now. And if that flies out the window, who knows to see what happens to Colorado.
Look, I mean, Colorado had 23 scholarship guys on the roster after the spring game, something absurd like that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that Deion isn't going to be successful, but the folks that are saying, look at what he's going to do next, just watch, just wait, just be patient. That's not how this works. College football is not a patient man's game anymore. And so to very brazenly eject every member that he possibly could of the previous team, not just the coaching staff, but the previous team. Of course, you have the news coming out that players don't have access to their practice film, their game.
So ridiculous.
Years past, like that is a straight up shame on Deion. I think he needs to wake up and smell reality a little bit that, hey, you're in Boulder, Colorado. You're not in Los Angeles. You're not in Miami. You don't get to act like you're, the head coach of a Super Bowl winning franchise where it's your way or the highway. You shouldn't get to yet. Now, if you start winning and you have just, oodles of players and 5 stars knocking on your door that are forming a line out the door to get in, maybe, but still, I think you ought to be a decent human being in all of this. And I think Deion's obviously always had an ego, but to see how quickly his ego's inflated here, after not doing anything in the college ranks. He's won some games at Jackson State, right? But he didn't win a title. He didn't do really anything of significance on the field there other than turning around a smaller program, which credit to him. He created a lot of hype there and he did some good there. He changed a lot of the way that funding now works at that level. And that deserves a round of applause. But we're past that now, right? We're talking D1 football at Colorado, and to come in and institute your own team, I don't have an issue with that. But don't throw guys out and let the door hit them on the way out, right? Like if you are going to forcibly remove these legacy players in some instances, guys who, probably knew that their days were numbered, but you're not easing that transition. You're not making it as easy as it is for them to go find a new job elsewhere. To me, that rubs me the wrong way. So I'm not saying that Deion's going to fail there, but for me personally, I'm not rooting for him to succeed super early on. I feel like he's got to show that this isn't just going to be kind of a sausage factory, right? Where players come in, they get grounded to dust, and hopefully it's a winning formula. To me, the best in the sport, like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, of course, they push their guys to the limit, but you don't hear about these guys treating their athletes like they're less than human. And to me, Deion's already knocking on that doorstep where it's like, all right, where's the line? Are you crossed it yet? And that leaves me with a little bit of pause.
He is flirting with the line, absolutely. And I think that in the coaching world, that will always catch up to you if you do cross that line. There's no one in the coaching profession that I think is immune from crossing that line and still being able to survive. But, I go back to this every time we talk about Deion and he's in some controversy at Colorado. Guys, we are talking about Colorado on April 30th, 2020.
Right, we are.
And if he was not there, we would 110% not be mentioning the names of the Colorado Buffaloes. They'd be an afterthought in our Pac-12 preview this summer, and then we probably wouldn't mention them again until the next summer, barring some miraculous upset. So, look, he is putting them back on the map. There's going to be a lot of growing pains there, it seems like. Anybody that's, over the moon projecting a winning season or a bowl game or, Lord forbid, even competing for the Pac-12 title this year. There are some people that were predicting that. That's not happening this year. I think that's very clear to say. There's going to be growing pains. There's going to be some transition as Deion finds his footing as not just a FBS head coach, but a Power 5 Pac-12 head coach for one of the few programs that's won a national title in the last 40 years. So as Deion Sanders keeps getting his feet under him, I think he's going to set up some amazing inroads. I think he's going to get a lot of talent. They do still have the number 1 transfer portal ranking, according to 247. They do have a lot of talent coming in. And as we see the next wave of players enter the portal, as they kind of realize that playing time might not be possible, I do think Deion is going to do very well on the other end of this as well. So will they field a competitive team that's competing for a conference title in 2023? I don't think so. Will they look a lot better than they have the last few years? Absolutely.
Gracious. Yep.